Welcome to the Big Four Accounting Firms podcast, brought to you by big4accountingfirms.com and the Big Four Accounting Firms YouTube channel. Before we get started, just wanted to remind everybody to support us if you have a chance or if you can. Even $1 helps, and we have a link in the description to a website called Buy Me a Coffee. It's just a way to donate to us and support us. Again, any amount is helpful so that we can keep putting out content. And there's also other ways for you to support us in the show notes to this podcast or on YouTube in the description. In today's podcast, we have a lot to talk about, a lot of news over the weekend. First up was Phil Mickelson winning the PGA Championship. And the reason this matters for the Big Four accounting firms is because KPMG has been his sponsor for a very long time. And he's also the oldest player to win a major championship. So that's a big deal for KPMG. KPMG actually got some good news. And then what else? So another thing that came out was, I know I've constantly been talking about crypto here, and blockchains, but this weekend PwC released their third annual global crypto hedge fund report. I didn't even know that they were doing this, but it just goes to show how much this area is growing. And I actually had somebody in the Big Four accounting firms reach out to me who's in this space, not at PwC, but outside of that. And he's pretty high up and he's working in this crypto space. And he actually spoke to me about DeFi, which is decentralized financing or decentralized finance. And I didn't really know too much about decentralized finance. I've read about it a little bit, but he tried to explain it to me. It's still pretty complex to me, but that's really what this PwC report talks about. And it got picked up everywhere, which is pretty big for PwC because all the, Bitcoin websites and cryptocurrency websites are picking this up, and it's talking about how the assets under management went from $2 billion to $3.8 billion this year. But it's also, like a lot of these hedge funds are getting involved in the decentralized finance, which is just a way to like lend money out without having to go through the banks. And you can use these cryptocurrencies, and a lot of it's built on Ethereum. And I recommend people read it. But one thing that I take away from not only this report, but from speaking with that person in the Big Four accounting firms, is that this area continues to be growing, like I've said. And I think this is a way that I can really help people that listen to this podcast, because I think this is a field that's very new and it's emerging. And to me, it's the way that you can really grow your career the fastest at the Big Four accounting firms, because it's a newer business within the Big Four accounting firms. You're basically going to be starting your own business in the Big Four accounting firms if you get into this space, because people don't know what to do in this area. And that's what this professional in the Big Four accounting firms told me, was that a lot of clients are reaching out. I mean, these new hedge funds are reaching out because they don't know what to do as far as reporting for tax purposes, for audit purposes. And if you're a Big Four professional, you're not necessarily going to know what to do either. You have to problem solve. You have to think of it yourself. And a lot of these clients are going to rely on you. The other good thing I like about this area is that it's not old and stodgy. A lot of areas in the Big Four accounting firms have a lot of older people. I mean, you got to think of, if you're an audit, you're going to be dealing with a controller or a CFO, and they're likely working in a very large organization if they're a client of the Big Four. And they've been there a long time, so they're older. So if you're a younger person, they're not really going to reach out to you. But if you're in crypto, the person you're dealing with is likely to be younger, especially if you're dealing with them within the tax department or the accounting department. But a lot of these funds might not even have a tax or accounting person. And you're going to be the go-to person in this area. Another thing this person in this area told me was that there's a lot of collaboration between firms, because none of them are necessarily experts yet, and they're all coming up with guidance. They're all going to have to provide guidance to the government, or tell the government what they think should happen. So it's really an emerging area, and I think it's the future. And I think people have to educate themselves on this. And once this professional at the big four accounting firms walked me through what was happening, I'm like, there's no way that the large banks don't get involved. And then I think Goldman released something this weekend too about cryptocurrencies, and they see Ethereum winning out over Bitcoin. And that doesn't matter necessarily, but the reason they were saying that is because of this DeFi movement, and Goldman's getting involved. Today, you had Elon Musk talking about it, Bitcoin again, and then you had Ray Dalio, who is a big hedge fund guy, speaking about it as well. So this area is growing. All the money is moving or getting. All the money isn't moving to this space yet, but it's slowly gathering to move to this space. And this is only going to help your career in the big four accounting firms if you choose to get involved. And I think that's something I took away from that conversation as well, is that in order to get involved in this space, you're going to have to speak up, and you're going to have to raise interest yourself, because the recruiters in the big four accounting firms are going to work the way they've always worked, and they're going to fill the positions that are there. And there's not necessarily open requisitions in these areas yet. So, and even if there are open requisitions, the chances of you filling them are small unless you speak up about it. So that's something that I advise people to do and speak up about. And the last thing I want to talk about is Deloitte. They got a contract to help print regular currency in the United States. They received a $115 million task order to provide information system support services to the Bureau of Engraving and Printing. And according to Deloitte, they'll be helping scheduling, process tracking, quality management, and data collection and reporting features. And they're going to be helping the Bureau of Engraving and Printing, as I said. And this serves as the Federal Reserve's currency producer and develops anti-counterfeiting technology for use in government security documents. So Deloitte received a lot of money to help the government print currency. So today we talk about cryptocurrency and we talk about regular currency. Either way you look at it, the big four accounting firms are there. And this is another thing I'll say about this is that there's another government contract that Deloitte wins. This is a huge amount of money, and we speak about it in here about how the big four accounting firm are making a lot of money from the government right now. This only goes to further that. I mean, this is over 5 years, but still, even $115 million over 5 years is a really, really good contract for the big four accounting firms. I mean, it's bigger than a lot of the audits as I've spoken about. So that's why I see the big four accounting firms getting more and more involved in here. The governments around the world are just continuing to print money. So I think that's filling two areas in the big four accounting firms, because printing money in the governments around the world is going to increase the amount of government work that the big four accounting firms can win. But it's also going to increase fear of people's confidence in currencies, and they're going to move into that cryptocurrency and decentralized finance world that we were speaking about earlier. But those are just some of the stories that happened this weekend. I'll be covering more throughout the week, so make sure to subscribe to this podcast and support us financially through the Buy Me a Coffee link in the show notes if you can. And if you can't, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thanks for listening.